In the time of the red, everything is just barely on the right side of broken down. Cybernetics aren't as plentiful as they once were. Guns on the streets are usually poor quality and liable to break apart at a moment's notice. Even something as simple as maintaining working appliances in some of the impoverished areas of Night City requires near daily maintenance. Techs are the edge runners who know all the tricks for maintaining and upgrading technology, sometimes even inventing something new. Hello there, and welcome to the latest video in my series, How to Run Cyberpunk RED. The focus of this video is the next role deep dive, the tech. I'll be going over character creation suggestions, Lifepath options, the character creation templates that are available, an analysis of the rollability maker, and what part a tech can play in the crew of edge runners at your table. As always, these are just my opinions as a game master, so take what I say as suggestions rather than gospel. The whole point of tabletop games like Cyberpunk RED is to enjoy spending time with your friends and telling fun stories together. Unlike the last few roles I've discussed, there aren't any major tech characters from the lore of Cyberpunk that are showcased in the tabletop game or the video game Cyberpunk 2077. For those that want to say characters like Victor would count, that's a med tech, which I'll be covering in my next role deep dive. With that being said, there are some NPC techs listed in Cyberpunk RED's core rulebook that you can check out, as well as some of the free DLCs that our Telsorian Games has released. A link for the core rulebook on DriveThruRPG is in the description below. Techs serve a vital role in the dystopian world of Cyberpunk RED. The time of the red is one of scarcity and rebuilding. Technology has regressed from the glitz of the 2020s, forcing many people to subsist on tech that's breaking down or barely functional. Techs provide the knowledge and skill to maintain existing technology, make upgrades or modifications, use existing raw materials to fabricate technology that is well known, and in some cases, invent new technologies. Because of this, techs are often highly sought after by the megacorporations and gangs that run Night City, which may or may not be the best thing for the tech themselves. Not as showy as rocker boys or solos, and not as niche as netrunners, techs can sometimes find themselves in the background, but they are the one role that has the potential to break the game wide open if the game master isn't careful. Before diving into character creation, remember that I'm only offering suggestions here, not hard and fast rules to live by. Building characters is part of the fun of tabletop games, and I prefer to approach character creation as crafting a fleshed out person rather than a checklist or build strategy. If you're looking for optimized builds, some of what I cover will give you a direction. If you're looking to make a fun character, I hope this also helps out. Personality, as always, is the first step in character creation after cultural origin. Techs don't fit in any single box, much like the other roles in Cyberpunk RED. If you're building a character that wants everything to be just right and is a perfectionist, you could go with picky, fussy, and nervous as a personality option. If you're looking to build a tech who sees everything around them as a project to be solved, intellectual and detached could be a good option to go with. Clothing style and hairstyle is one part of the life path where you can really go in any direction. Working off of the previous suggestions, a perfectionist tech who's picky and fussy would probably want to convey a certain image like generic chic for clothing style and neat and short for the hairstyle. The tech who sees everything as a project might go with urban flash for clothing style, but stick with bald for a hairstyle. Remember that clothing style and hairstyle are just aspects to accentuate the character you're building, rather than solid bricks that can't be changed after the house is completed. The same goes with affectation, since any of the available options could work for a tech character. Motivations and relationships are where you can start to really carve into the musculature of your character. Does your tech value knowledge or money? Are they obsessed with power, or did they become a tech because they wanted to take care of family? This translates to how they feel about other people. A tech that values power is probably going to see people as obstacles to be destroyed if they cross you. On the flip side, a tech who values knowledge may just stay completely neutral, refusing to focus on interpersonal relationships. For original family background, there are a lot of interesting options you could go with to craft a story for why your character became a tech. Let's say your character came from a ganger family background. That would probably mean any education your character got was on the streets from your gang's family. So you're more street smart instead of book smart and learn to become a tech through lots of trial and error. Contrast that with corporate technicians as a background, which would mean your family were part of the corpo system, but you were the background characters that never rose above a comfortable middle class lifestyle. You learned at a corpo technical school or college, so you've got some practical experience, but not a lot of understanding on what everyday people would need to survive in the time of the Red. Take a few minutes to think about the family background and what that would mean for your tech, particularly as it leads into the next life path option. The environment your tech grew up in should absolutely coincide with your family background option. A child of corporate technicians wouldn't have grown up in a corporate luxury skyscraper, but rather in a safe corp zone that was walled off from the rest of the city. A tech who grew up with a ganger family would probably have grown up in the heart of the combat zone, or maybe running the streets with no real supervision. It's possible that something drastic happened to change your living conditions, so keep that in mind when crafting your character's backstory. Family crisis could absolutely play into that change in environment, particularly if your family lost everything through bad management or were betrayed. Once you've completed all of these standard life path options, it's time to start using the tech life path. Just like with the previous roles I've covered, techs have life path options that are unique to them, but similar in some ways to what I've covered before, specifically rocker boys and netrunners. The first question in this life path will help determine what kind of work your tech does, which can range from being a jack of all trades to a weaponsmith or a scavenger. Keep your previous life path choices in mind when selecting the kind of tech your character is. Next up is a decision that should be familiar from the rocker boy and netrunner life paths. Does your tech have a partner, or do they work alone? The partner options range from family members, old friends, a mentor, or maybe someone with secret connections to some of the shadier edges of edge runner life. After picking a partner or deciding you work alone, the next step is to pick what your workspace looks like. If you're working off the perfectionist concept I mentioned earlier, then you probably go with the totally digital and obsessively backed up everyday option. If you decided to instead go with the tech who sees everything as a project and is emotionally detached, you could go with only you understand your filing system as a nice touch. The next question for the tech life path will help determine the kind of client your tech works with. Like I mentioned at the beginning of this video, techs are sought after individuals because of their abilities with technology, so your character will have clients they work with to pay the bills. These can range from local fixers who send people your way for a cut of the action, to local solos who pay you to help upkeep their weapons and armor. Which leads to the next question, which focuses on how your tech gets the supplies they need to do their work. The time of the Red is not a period of abundance, so you might be scavenging in abandoned parts of the city or stripping gear from the people left behind in the firefights that happen daily in Night City. Maybe that fixer who sends you clients also helps you get supplies if you do some repair work for them as payment. Last but certainly not least is my favorite question for each role life path. Who's gunning for your tech? This would go on top of any enemies you rolled during the initial life path options, but it's always fun to add a wrench in the machinery, so to speak. Maybe you've got a rival tech who wants to steal your clients or stop you from getting the resources you need. Maybe instead you've got a corpo rat who wants to sign you to an exclusive deal that isn't going to be in your favor. This selection will help your game master develop hopefully interesting antagonists who can add some drama to the upcoming sessions. Let's get into the nitty-gritty of character creation now. First up are the Street Rat and Edge Runner templates for your tech's stats. You can find these on page 74 in the core rulebook. Just to recap, in case you haven't watched the previous videos in this series, the Street Rat method for stat generation involves rolling a 10-sided die one time, then entering the stats for that line entry that matches the number. With Street Rat, you roll once and you get all 10 stats. With Edge Runner, you roll that 10-sided die 10 times, once for each stat, and select the line entry that matches the number on the die. You'll notice right off the bat there are 3 categories that have a number of 8s in them, which is the highest number you can set a stat to during this stage of character creation. Intelligence, Reflex, and Technique all have multiple lines with the number 8 on them. Intelligence is mostly tied to education skills, which obviously represent the type of schooling your character had. Reflex comes in handy for gunfights, dodging damage, and initiative during combat. Technique is the stat tied to all of the technique skills that you'll want to invest in, but we'll get to that in a bit. Will and Cool are both treated as sort of the dump stat here, with 3s and 4s most dominant. If you're going with the complete package build for stats, Technique is the main stat you should put an 8 in, since all of your tech-based skills work off of that stat. You'll definitely want to put some points into Reflex if you plan on using a gun in combat, but you could switch that out for Dexterity if you decide to be more of a melee fighter. Body and Empathy should be high, since you'll want the bigger humanity score for potential cyberware, and having a high body stat helps with more hit points. Luck is another stat I would suggest considering, since having a high pool of points you can use each game session to increase your chances of success is never a bad thing. Moving on to skills. You'll find the Street Rat template for tech skills on page 86 of the core rulebook. If you're going off the Street Rat or Edge Runner build for stats, seeing the options with 6 ranks here make a certain amount of sense. Basic Tech is a catch-all skill for any technology skill check that isn't specifically covered by one of the other options. Cyber Tech relates to Cyberware, and Weapons Tech is also pretty self-explanatory. Land Vehicle Tech is the default vehicle technique skill here, which means your tech character will start off with a solid mechanical foundation with land-based motor vehicles. Electronics Security Tech is an interesting skill since it comes in most handy when a tech character needs to disable some of the security measures that can be encountered during a gig. Shoulder Arms is the skill associated with using shotguns, assault rifles, and sniper rifles during combat. For the last skill, Science, there are a plethora of options at your disposal. Go with a science that fits the character you're building. Education, Evasion, and First Aid also get 6 ranks each, which shows that your tech has some serious book knowledge to fall back on, knows how to avoid getting hit during a fight, and can patch themselves and someone else up reasonably well if it's not a serious injury. If you're going with the complete package option for skills, you might be tempted to dump a bunch of skill ranks into the technique skills. That's not a bad idea if you're building a jack-of-all-trades kind of tech. But as you'll see with the Maker role ability, it's not always necessary. It's not a bad idea to have one or two ranks in the major technique skills like land vehicle tech, air vehicle tech, and sea vehicle tech, but you can also specialize in one of those. You may also decide to put ranks in demolitions, indicating your tech has a knack for explosives. I would say it's also good to incorporate ranks for the other categories, including some you might not consider important, like conversation and trading. Techs inevitably have to work with other people to get the supplies they need. So, being able to get a good bargain and learn more information from people during a chat is never a bad thing. And make sure to remember that combat skills are important since sooner or later your tech will find themselves in a fight and need to carry their own weight. Moving on to weapons and armor on page 98. Techs start off with either a shotgun or an assault rifle, basic ammunition for either of those weapons totaling 100 rounds, and a flashbang grenade. This works off the assumption you've been using the Street Rat and or Edge Runner templates and went with shoulder arms as your primary combat skill. You'll also start off with light armor jack for the head and body, which is the standard for all the roles. If you're going to use the complete package build, keep in mind which combat skills you put ranks into. On page 103, you'll find the gear outfit options for your tech. Like all but the exec, you'll start off with an agent as well as a disposable cell phone. You'll also get an anti-smog breathing mask, which comes in handy when you're rummaging through dilapidated buildings for scraps. The tech bag is a catch-all term for the small bag of tools you need to fix stuff. Road flares come in handy if you need to cordon off a spot to do some repair work, and you'll definitely need a flashlight for some of the work you'll end up doing. And speaking of repair work, even in the dystopian future of Cyberpunk RED, duct tape is still an essential repair tool. The clothing options of generic, chic, and leisure wear give the idea of a tech who doesn't try to impress with their clothing and wants something functional. If you decide you want to buy your own gear and outfits with the complete package build, a carry-all bag is never a bad thing to purchase. If you can stomach putting down 1,000 euro bucks at character creation, getting a tech scanner is going to be essential for a tech character, since the scanner gives your character a +2 bonus to quite a few of the technique skills that you can invest ranks in. You should also invest in the tech bag and tech tool, since those represent the tools you'll be using on a regular basis. Last but not least is your cyberware. On page 117, you'll find the Street Rat Edge Runner template for a tech's cybernetic implants and the pre-calculated humanity loss for those items. Skinwatch is a fashion wear item that doesn't cost you any humanity. The Cyber Eye and Micro Optics implant is a good selection since it allows a tech to have a built-in zoom feature for delicate work. And the tool hand is a useful implant that doesn't require a cyber arm if you want to avoid having to always carry around your tech tools. With the complete package build, there are other options I can suggest. Getting a second cyber eye so you can get some of the paired implants like low light, infrared, UV isn't a bad choice. Nasal filters is a good internal cyberware option that can help your character avoid the hazards of toxic fumes and gases. And if you want to spend your 1,000 euro bucks a bit differently, you can get a cyber arm and a tech scanner implant for that cyber arm. With the nuts and bolts of character creation out of the way, let's dive into the role ability for techs called Maker. This is the first of two role abilities where you gain ranks in specialties rather than the tiered abilities like the Rocker Boy or the combat skills of a solo. When you increase your rank in the Maker role ability, you can increase two different Maker specialties by one rank. These specialties are Field Expertise, Upgrade Expertise, Fabrication Expertise, and Invention Expertise. You'll want to write down the specialties you're putting ranks into in the small box on the character sheet under where you can enter your role ability. First up is Field Expertise. This specialty represents your tech's familiarity with the various forms of technology that exist in the world. Every rank you put into field expertise can be added as a bonus to any basic tech, cyber tech, electronics security tech, weapons tech, land, sea, or air vehicle tech skill checks that you make for any non-maker specialty purpose. The non-maker purpose would be what we'll cover with the other specialties. What this means is that if you put 4 ranks in field expertise, you'll gain a +4 bonus to skill checks for those above listed skills. This is why I mentioned that you don't necessarily need to put a lot of ranks in technique skills when you're building your character. In addition to the boost your skill checks get, you'll be able to jury rig something instead of attempting a full repair. Jury rigging lasts for 10 minutes for each rank in field expertise, though you'll still have to make the required skill check, but you'll still be including the boost you get for those skill checks that I covered a moment ago. Next up is upgrade expertise, which is a nifty specialty. Upgrade expertise allows you to grant a single item 1 upgrade from the list below. You can lower the humanity loss for non-Borgware cyberware by 1d6 if the typical humanity lost would be 2d6 or greater. You can make an average quality weapon into an excellent quality weapon, which gives a character a +1 bonus to their attack skill check. The upgrade options here aren't extensive, but they don't need to be, especially given the time and difficulty with upgrading something, which is based on the price category of the item. For example, upgrading an average quality weapon that has a premium cost of 100 Eurobucks has a difficulty value of 17 and takes 1 day of downtime activity to complete. Upgrading a very expensive item has a difficulty value of 24 and will take 2 weeks of downtime activity to complete. To upgrade an item, you'll make a skill check using the appropriate technique skill. So upgrading an average quality weapon would use the weapons tech skill, for example. You'll also have to purchase materials for the upgrade, which are the same as the cost for the item's price category. The exception is vehicle upgrades, which are always treated as very expensive, aka 1,000 Eurobucks. If you fail the upgrade check, you'll have to start over from scratch, but you don't lose the materials you purchase or damage the item you're upgrading. Fabrication expertise is the next specialty, which gives your tech the ability to build pretty much any item in the gear, weapons, even cyberware lists. You'll make a skill check using the appropriate technique skill for the item that you're trying to craft, such as cyber tech if you're attempting to fabricate a piece of cyberware. The good news is that you'll only have to purchase materials at the cost of 1 price category below the category of the item you're fabricating. For example, if you're trying to build a very expensive item that would normally cost 1,000 Eurobucks to buy, your tech can use fabrication expertise to build it and only have to spend 500 Eurobucks on materials, which is the expensive price category. The same difficulty values and time frames used for upgrade expertise apply to fabrication expertise. Invention expertise is the specialty that has the most potential for game-breaking activity out of all of them, but also the chance for some cool creative ideas between game masters and tech players. Essentially, invention expertise gives your tech the ability to create new technology from scratch or create an upgrade from scratch for an existing item. You'll need to describe the form and function of the upgrade or new tech that you're trying to create to your GM. The GM will then write out how this proposed invention will operate within the rules of Cyberpunk RED and set the price category for the new invention, although the lowest category is expensive. Once again, your tech character will make a skill check using the appropriate technique skill based on the invention being created, and you'll use the same difficulty value and time frame scale for upgrade and fabrication expertise. Once you've invented the item, it becomes available to be built and potentially improved upon by other techs in the world. With invention expertise, you'll need some patience and work with your GM to build something that not only fits in the cyberpunk world you're playing in, but also won't completely break the game. It may take some retroactive changes after the invention is completed to make sure everything fits properly, so give your GM some grace. And for the GMs out there, be fair to your tech players who want to use this specialty. Don't automatically shoot down every idea they come up with. Work with your player so that an effective compromise is found. Tech characters can serve a vital role in any crew of edge runners, from simply maintaining weapons, armor, vehicles, and gear to disabling security measures to upgrading items. Techs can help make even the most basic crew of edge runners into a potentially formidable group. From a GM standpoint, having a tech in your crew means you'll need to put some forward thinking into designing your gigs. You'll want to have obstacles or tasks that will require the tech's skill set so they can contribute meaningfully to the job the crew is on. And GMs should be prepared for some creative solutions to the obstacles they lay out for their players. I would also say don't fret invention expertise all that much. In my experience, most players aren't going to push the boundaries with that specialty. Multiclassing for a tech character can be potentially interesting, depending on the stats and skills you decide to invest in during character creation. Techs who put a focus on combat could multiclass into solo, making for someone who not only knows how to use their weapons, but probably has some modifications that give them a big edge. A tech who multiclasses into med tech could have a stronger focus on cyberware, becoming a Ripper Doc who builds his own custom cybernetics for clients. That covers the deep dive into the tech role for Cyberpunk RED. I hope you've enjoyed the video. If you did, be sure to check out the other videos on my channel as well as the links in the description below. Take care, Chooms.